Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to begin the meeting of the Planning Board for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2013. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. First item on our agenda is public input. Do we want to shuffle that off or do? Public input. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board this evening? Hearing none, I'll close public input and move on to site plan review application for Continental Paving at tax map 21, lot 18, Morgan Road. Applicant wishes to construct a 9,900 square foot maintenance building to service existing vehicles on site. Site work also includes additional access, parking areas, and stormwater and drainage improvements. If the aforementioned application is accepted, notice is hereby extended to application approval, consideration, and/or continuations to a date certain as required. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Tony Basso. I'm with Keach Nordstrom, and here with me tonight is Rick Charbonneau, one of the owners of Continental Paving in Litchfield Sand and Gravel. The project here is located on Morgan Road, which is off of Albuquerque at the basically the entrance to Litchfield Sand and Gravel, the project, you come in Morgan Road, before you get to the gate to the pit, there's a scale house and a maintenance building now. This is actually going to be on that, essentially that same plot of land. The tract is actually 257 or so acres. We're using a tiny little piece of it, a few acres here. And this sits behind the driving range in the woods. So there's a driving range that you can see on Albuquerque, then there's a woods line. This is actually in the woods and behind that and between the driving range and the scale house. So what we're proposing is a maintenance building. Like the application said, it's for equipment that's used on site to bring in service and then have it go back out to the pit or wherever it has to go. So we are proposing essentially 9,900 square feet. It's going to have access doors on both the north and south ends of the building. We proposed a little parking lot on the east side, and then the building will be serviced by an on-site well and an on-site septic system. And then stormwater will be handled on the west side of the building and park and access area to the building. We'll dig a stormwater area, and essentially it's really good soil there, so we're going to just infiltrate drainage and have an overflow in the direction of the gravel pit. So there's a little bit of additional pavement out here. There's some gravel, and then this maintenance building. It's really, from the perspective of the operation that goes on here, you're not going to see anything different, essentially. There's going to be woods line to Morgan Road left, and there's woods line between us and the driving range, which the Charbonneaus also own. So this won't be near any of the perimeters of this property at all. We have applied for our septic permit. We've also applied for a site-specific permit. We have gotten comments back for site-specific, just two actually. We got comments from NRPC, and we got comments from Fire Rescue, and obviously comments from Lou Caron today. So we're prepared to address those and any other comments the board has. And I think at this point, the application acceptance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the specifics.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing is this project will need approval in Londonderry as well. We're not doing any work in Londonderry, but part of our parcel extends into Londonderry. So because of that, we will have an approval process to go through in the town of Londonderry as well. So that will be going on as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm just running right down the checklist. All abutters and those who have affixed a professional license to the application have been notified, correct?
Correct.
All fees from the applicant have been paid and escrow account established.
Correct.
If any abutters or professionals have not been notified, doesn't apply because they have been. Or if the applicant's not paid, close the hearing and renotice. That doesn't apply. Appoint any alternate members, there are none present this evening. Verbally explain the meeting steps in the process. Planning board will first receive information to confirm that the application is complete. Planning board, second, will vote to accept the application for consideration, but that does not approve the application. Planning board will then consider the merits of the application and, if applicable, will approve the application. It's a good checklist. Thank you for generating this. And moving on. Review with the circuit rider status application document. Determine completeness.
Okay.
I have the NRPC report in front of me.
For acceptance on the second page, you went through a couple of the things there, signature and seal of registered surveyor, that's confirmed, and then confirm signed application received. So do you want me to go through all of the items Jen has listed here too, or?
Let's see. I'm trying to stick to the checklist as close
Yeah.
as I can. If I get off track, I get lost badly.
To accept the application first?
Right.
That does show up 2 boxes down. Ask the rest of the planning board members if they have any questions on the application.
No, only that it's complete.
Yep.
All the fees been paid.
Paid, yeah.
Remind the assembled public this vote does not approve the application, but only places it in front of the planning board for consideration. It's important to note. I'm prepared to receive a motion if one is. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we have, as I understand it, 2 waiver requests.
Yes, waiver of traffic impact analysis and a waiver of boundary of the entire parcel. We are not near, the boundary lines we are near are shown. The other boundaries are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards away from us. So I showed what was pertinent, but I need to, to show the rest is, doesn't do anything to help the plan. And the traffic analysis, again, we're asking for a waiver because this is really to service the stuff that happens on trucks and vehicles that go to and from this site and work on this site as it is. So it's not changing. This isn't going to change this operation in any way. This is to service what's going on here.
So there'll be no additional traffic from the other facility?
That's right.
Okay. So is the expansion just to deal with what you have currently? Is that just an underuse capability now?
That's right.
So it's just to deal with current flow?
That's correct.
Any other comments, questions, concerns from the board?
Well, I think what we need to do, Mr. Chairman, I suggest would be to act on each of the individual requests for waivers and either approve or decline them, and that would determine whether we're complete or not.
Right. I think the way it's set up here is for you to act on acceptance first, and then the first thing you would do is to act on the submitted waivers for approval.
Well, the problem is that if you accept the application, what you're saying in effect by state law is that the application is fully complete. They have not submitted, hang on.
Yep.
They have not submitted all the information, but what they have done is requested 2 waivers. Now,
I can,
We
can I,
bounced back and forth
Right.
a couple times on this, so either way.
I can address that. Regarding the state law on that, you are correct that it assumes that everything has been submitted, but the option on that checklist is either submit a waiver or submit the actual item. So we have submitted the waiver, so it is complete per the state law. If you then vote, after you accept the application, if you voted not to approve that waiver, the application's still in place. It just means that I have to then bring back to you the traffic study or the boundary or whatever. But the application checklist, technically, you're looking for either a waiver or a waiver request or the actual item. That both suffice for the state law, and then afterwards, that can be determined whether it needs to be in or not. So the waiver request does take the place to fill that slot.
I've seen it done both ways.
Right, oh, it can be, but
How the board wishes to proceed.
Thanks. My expectation was we would act on the approval first and then
That's fine then.
go through the waivers after.
I'm miscorrecting, just let me know. Make a motion to accept the application from Litchfield Sand and Gravel, case number 1312, LITSP M21.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0. Application is accepted. Now on to the waivers.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
is there any regional impact?
I believe there would be, as they have to appear before the Londonderry Planning Board. Would that be would that constitute regional impact?
From what I've spoken with Jen, I don't think so.
we only have to go to Londonderry because our property actually physically goes into Londonderry. It doesn't just abut it. We actually own land in Londonderry. If it just went to the Londonderry line,
Can you pass
we
to
wouldn't
us?
have to, but we actually extend in across the line, and so therefore, they're essentially part of the application.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Question on the traffic impact analysis. Maybe this would be done later, but if the facility is there now is too small for the current use that you need, correct? So that's being torn down, replaced with this building? No.
It-
The
Is
same
it-
building's staying there. What it is we have a shovel front
Yep.
that weighs 250,000 pounds, and we have to dismantle it to bring it to our West Road facility to work on.
Okay.
Rather than do that, we want to have a facility to work on in the wintertime when we take it apart to repair it. So it's to repair
Okay.
the 60-ton trucks that we have there.
The big
Yeah.
stuff.
And all the big equipment that we have there. It's cheaper to have this facility than to break it down to move it
Okay.
to get repaired. So it's really a,
Because my question was, if you had 10,000 square foot building, what else would you be doing there? Would there be more employees, more traffic? But it's basically just gonna make the work easier in one spot.
just to take care of the stuff that we.
Right, it's actually gonna pull that, the big stuff that he'd have to disassemble to bring to, because the majority of, repair work is done at the Londonderry facility.
Okay.
But obviously this big stuff is a pain to haul that's
Yeah.
there, so it'd be
So if you're in a
easier to.
butter, you're not gonna see any increased traffic due to other vehicles coming
No.
in, other service vehicles?
Nothing
Okay.
changes.
No.
It's the same they've had since the beginning.
It's really just-
So instead of that stuff being loaded on a handful of low beds to bring it to Londonderry,
It'll stay there.
it'll just go up to this building and be worked on inside it. So if anything, I guess it would pull a few trucks off the road that would be going to the other facility to bring it for service.
And really during the summertime, there's very little maintenance that will be done there. It's really in the wintertime. And the crushing operation is shut down. That's when we bring that stuff and
Okay.
fix it.
Thank you.
Thank you. One item I neglected to mention here is inform the public that this portion of the process will now consider the application for approval and will solicit public input. I see you in the back, you're anxious to give input. Sir, sir, please, though, in a few minutes, we'll get to the public input section. I just wanted to let you know that it is coming up. I won't forget you. So now,
Also,
getting back to the waivers.
we need to actually, I think, open the public hearing too. Did we do that?
We accepted the application and we're reviewing the waiver requests.
I think after you accept, then you open.
The checklist has the first step as announced by reading out loud the posted notice of application to the meeting. That should be the formal opening of the public
Okay.
hearing. I apologize, we don't see nearly enough applications before the board. It's
That's all right, no
It's
problem.
a constant relearning every time we have an application.
I'm just reading off of the staff recommendations on my sheet,
Okay.
that's all.
And I think the waiver for the boundary for the parcel, I mean, obviously, it's 5 acres among 256 or something.
Right.
I don't foresee any issue waiving that.
Is that a motion? I've got the waiver requests here for review.
On the big screen there, you can actually see the relationship, the little area that were proposed and then all that property that they own. And that doesn't include other tracts that they also own that aren't part of this actual physical tract.
Transitional areas.
Right, right.
Collectively, we have about 650 acres out there between Londonderry and Litchfield.
I have no further concerns on it. Do you have any comments or concerns on the waivers? You're the
Well,
senior
you need
member
to
of the
take
staff
action
here.
on the waivers, and you also need to take action on regional impact. That's all.
Does the board believe that there is a regional impact from this?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
Staff recommendations
No, I don't,
appear to have a regional impact that we should consider.
I don't think you need to be concerned with it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that, actually, I should do this. Let's see here. Oops. That, project name Litchfield Sand and Gravel, case number 1312, LITSP M21, does not meet regional impact.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you. That was a good call. All right, moving on to the waiver requests. Are there any concerns that would prohibit us from accepting and granting those requests?
I think the only comments Jen had were regarding employee, traffic, parking, extra staff, which you already addressed as not being an issue, so.
What about the boundary of the entire parcel is, there doesn't seem to be an
We
issue.
have that on record
Yeah,
with the original approval of the quarry, so if we pull those plans out, it's all done.
Oh, yeah. We did it years
You
ago.
have it,
Yeah.
mhm.
and you do have it on file, it's not for this building, we show it on all
Right.
sheets.
I mean, I would have had to
Okay.
put a million sheets together for this to show you pieces of 250 acres. And I did show you the boundary lines that actually are relevant. So,
But this facility is fully encompassed in your area, so it's not even like it's directly abutting the edge of your
that's
property
right.
anyway.
It's not.
So it's contiguous inside the property space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even close to a
I would entertain a motion if appropriate to make one at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Litchfield Sand and Gravel request for waivers in connection with case number 1312 LITSP M21 in regards to a waiver from the land use laws and site plan regulation. And the second waiver in regards to the same two regulations be accepted.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you. The waivers are granted. So we're on to the presentation.
Which I sort of did that, I guess, out of order,
Yeah,
so.
Out of order.
your intro pretty much covered it.
Can I ask a question? One of the things that always concerns me with any kind of maintenance and servicing of vehicles is potential for pollution. So what kind of plans are in place to handle stuff like waste oil, gasoline spillage or diesel fuel storage, et cetera, et cetera?
There is no gasoline, so we don't use any gasoline. We do have some diesel fuel stored on the site, but it's at the asphalt plant. So that's already been filled, and that's in a bunker, and all that's there. So that's nothing on this site. The only thing that we'll have is we will have, on occasion, we'll have barrels of oil, and they drain the oil out, and they put it into other barrels, and then we discard it, and it goes off to a recycling center.
And there's no, with this plan, there's no bulk storage proposed here on this, with this facility. We're not proposing any new bulk storage of any kind of hazardous materials.
One of the items Jen had was additional external lighting for the
Only
facility.
against the walls of the building. There'll be wall pack lighting only, no new light poles.
Floodlighting or anything
No.
like that.
I noticed
We
you,
have spill kits, I mean, there's spill kits in the shop, and the service trucks have them, and they're all
Right.
there. And it's just a flat concrete spill.
I don't know, I don't know if there are standards for things like, again, like waste oil, how you store it until it's ready to be recycled or sent off, or et cetera, et cetera. The reason I ask is, I see a lot of this stuff, and I see everything from great situations of how people handle this stuff to not so much, as far as,
The storage area is highly regulated by the state, and if we do have enough money, if we do have storage tanks, they're involved, so they didn't have to be in the bunker.
okay.
Which is like and it's gotta be a big enough bunker to contain everything that could, like if the whole tank busted open, the bunker has to be big enough to contain that entire
So you have,
thing.
you have a tank, and then around the tank, you have a concrete or block bunker
Right.
to put it in.
But we're not, in this particular situation, we're not proposing anything like, we're not proposing any bulk storage like that. So, the stuff that, they'd be dealing with is all much smaller quantities and would be removed when they're from the site and brought to a recycling facility.
Our service trucks they hold a couple hundred gallons of different types of oil. And they also have facilities in there to suck the oil out of the equipment and it goes into the tank. And then but that'll go back to our West Road facility where we have tanks that are all approved and that gets pumped in there. And in a lot of cases at West Road, we use most of our waste oil to heat the shop. In this case, we have natural gas here, so we'll be using natural gas. But we use the waste oil to heat our shop.
Can you talk about the activities that'll go on in that building?
What we'll be doing? Undercarriages, welding on buckets, whatever maintenance we have to do, changing engines, changing tires, doing brake jobs on the 60-ton rock trucks.
Will there be any pressure washing?
There may be some, but you know, there's not a lot of it, but there's possibility there's some.
Where will that wastewater go?
It'll happen inside the shop, and then in most cases it gets vacuumed up and you get rid of it.
Is there space inside the building other than that workshop space, or is it gonna be like office areas, or?
It's just a
Things
big
like
open
that?
building.
Big and open
Pretty
box.
much all it is a big open building.
I noticed on your application, you have overlay districts aquifer checked off, and are there gonna be any impacts to aquifer, or how, or,
We don't believe there is. I mean,
No, and we're actually putting the stormwater back into the ground, so even the impervious surfaces that we are creating, we're actually taking that stormwater that would have gone into the ground in location, and we're putting it into a stormwater area where it's treated first and then allowed to infiltrate. So we're not going to have any detrimental impact on the aquifer because the stormwater will be treated and infiltrated entirely. So anything that would have gotten infiltrated before development will after the fact, because we're actually going to put it all through that system after treatment.
And I've never been down Morgan Road, but I assume there'll be no trees torn down, or there even trees on the front end of the property? The
There-
access is already there.
Yeah, the access is there. There will be some trees cut down behind the existing scale house building. Yeah, basically on that piece of land, we're gonna cut a square out. I don't know if you have sheet 3, I think. Yeah, sheet 3. I don't know if you have that. And actually, that one shows it good. You can see we'll have to take that tree, right now, the tree line,
telephone tower is right
and the tree line goes back here kind of like this, and then back around like that. So we're gonna cut a little bit more out, like right in there.
And a butter,
Nobody-
what they see is what they see now. Because obviously, if you're taking trees down behind your building, it's not a frontage.
there. I'm the abutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the abutter.
Well, no, meaning anyone on Morgan Road, like anyone coming in this way who lives in those neighborhoods, they're not gonna see any difference.
No, there-
You're not
Right.
touching what's seen from the road.
I'm the
And he
abutter.
actually owns all of that.
I own everything. When you drive in Albuquerque on both sides of the road,
Okay.
we own all that, all the way to,
So
all the way to the.
that's the driving range.
Yep.
Okay, this is, Morgan and Albuquerque is out here, but they own all those tracks.
We basically own all the land all the way to, Romano.
Okay.
You drive in there, everything all the way to Romano's, the road that goes from the side of Romano's.
Yep.
You own that all the way, and there's one duplex, and you own around the back of the duplex to the brook, and the brook all the way down through Hidden Creek,
Okay.
all the way.
So, but to answer the question, if you were to look from Albuquerque across the driving range,
Yep.
the woods at the back side of the driving range will probably be thinner because we're cutting some of that woods line back. But it won't be gone. We're gonna just be cutting it back. So you may be able to see light through there, that you can't see today maybe, but, it'll just be thinned out. It won't be cut down completely, right? We're leaving a substantial buffer there.
You're gonna be also doing grading away from the building,
Yep.
so that you've created, apparently, you've got a grade down. I can't quite tell from what I've got here, but you're gonna be grading down. If you look at but print 6 of 8, I think it shows a grading, or what looks to be a
Yeah.
grading.
Yep.
What's the one? I can't see the
So-
numbers.
So this is the stormwater treatment and detention. That'll be a low area in the back. We're gonna flow the water off to the sides and around into the back. It's treated in both of these areas and then infiltrated in that area. So all of that grading is inside that tree line that was on that other sheet.
Is there any oil separators you plan on putting in for movement of the water, or is it just gonna be sheet
It's sheet flow.
flow?
It's just sheet flow. So it basically, if, you know, it flows off from the building's kind of the high spot, it flows out in both directions. This flows the same way, and then it gets picked up in a swale into the treatment areas, and then into the infiltration. So the treatment areas provide for settling and the time needed to take care of any pollutant loads. And that meets the AOT standard for stormwater management for this kind of facility, for a New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
Now, how much impervious area around the building you planning on putting, for example? I know where you could get hot top real cheap and stuff like that, but I'm just wondering how much you plan on paving around the area.
gonna pave all that. We're only doing a little bit of additional paving, just this little apron you see here, okay? And this is paved already to a point, and we're going to just pave a little bit, kind of just a wraparound like that. This will be gravel, actually. It's just sloped off gravel from the building.
And the entrance to that building is gonna be on the sides or on the
Yes.
front and back?
There's gonna be, these are doors here and doors here, so equipment could come through the building.
And then come back out?
That's right.
Okay.
Just like a Jiffy Lube.
On a large scale.
Will there be any long-term parking of the vehicles in the gravelled areas?
None's proposed, no. You can't do that in the aquifer area.
All the equipment right now parks right up in the quarry. And that's where it'll be up and if it's being worked on, then it'll be down there.
I noticed in the, it's from the fire chief, one of the things is the building may require an approved sprinkler system.
Well, what we're asking for is to approve the size of the building, and the building will be sized, whatever it takes not to have a sprinkler system. So if they say at 9,900 square feet, we have to have a sprinkler system, we're gonna make the building smaller. We don't want a sprinkler system.
Right, and really what he's talking about here is with sprinkler systems, size is definitely a factor. Like if you go over 10,000, I think it becomes automatically required regardless of your building materials. But up to 10,000, depending on the combustibility of the materials used to build the building, determines whether you need a sprinkler or not, and also the uses inside that building. So when the Charbonneaus have their architect do the building, they'll do a determination on and work with the fire department on that for both they had the two issues, the fire alarm and the sprinkler system. And to answer their other questions, there isn't, as we stated before, there isn't going to be any bulk storage of hazardous materials inside or outside, which was a question the fire department had, so there won't be any of that.
And are you waiting for confirmation on the maximum size that you could hit before sprinkler comes in?
It's really, I think the
based on the-
maximum size isn't so much it's a piece of it. We're below that criteria. It's really going to be, and it's a hard, it's the dealing with NFPA and figuring out the use inside, the amount of people, it's occupancy, the use, the materials the building's made out of. So basically, and the size, all that relates to create whether you need sprinkler or not. So the goal here is to build 9,900 square feet, not sprinkler it.
Okay.
Or less.
Or less, if
That's the maximum size of the facility.
that's the maximum size, yes.
It says in your, and I'm looking at your application, it says issues. One of the things it says, and you have checked off, is easements. What,
We don't need any.
you don't even need easements?
No.
Okay. Is there a reason that was checked off? Or?
What are you looking at?
On their application, where it says issues, it's on page 1. They have checked off waiver, state permits, and they have checked off easements.
On the, checklist or the actual application?
On the, I think it's the actual application.
Yeah, we don't have
On
any
Jen-
easements.
That's
no,
the staff
NRPC
review.
Oh, okay, I see, all right, okay. Was there anything from staff concerning that? Was there an issue? Was that why that was checked off?
I'm trying to find where you're referring to easements.
No, page one.
Um, no, I'm not sure on that one.
And you also, I noticed, steep slopes. Now, is it behind the building? Is that anything that's?
We don't have any steep slopes on our,
Okay.
yeah, on this, in the area we're working in at all.
Again, maybe that's something that staff,
Yeah, I think that showed up on the GIS review that Jen did, so
okay.
if, just obviously, it differs from what's actually on site sometimes.
All right. Well, as long as it's, not an issue that,
Right, we actually did the field topography here, and that's shown on the plan, and there are no steep slopes.
This building be heated by natural gas or by?
Natural gas.
Natural gas, okay. What is that structure that's close to the easement there? That, yeah.
Yeah.
And the radius that's constructed down in the, left?
Oh, that's the well radius for the well.
Okay.
I guess that would be the easement question, is the PSNH
Yeah.
or the New England Power easement that runs, it's really kind of off the plan here, but we're at the limit of it right here. There's a 350 foot wide New England Power easement that does go through this property, so that's probably what that
Yep.
is.
I think you're right.
We own the property underneath it.
Right, and it's just an easement, they own it.
The staff report has several questions that I believe you spoke with.
I did
Jen
speak with Jen about them,
about them.
I can go through them really quick.
That would be great.
The waivers were the first two which you dealt with. Then number two are the general concerns. How will emergency access be around the building? Well, this is all flat gravel area for access, and there's actually a gravel panel all the way around the back, so there's access on all four sides of the building.
Just a question related to that.
Yeah.
What type of facilities do you have there that would be able to be used for, putting out a fire?
What do you mean, what do we have?
In other words, yeah, is there a hydrant near there, or is there some,
There's a hydrant at Albuquerque.
how far away is that?
I would bet within 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
I was gonna say between 600 and 1,000 feet.
Right in front of, right by the clubhouse.
We don't really, the next question was regarding vehicular circulation, pedestrian patterns. We don't really have any of that going on. It's just for the winter time, servicing, stuff like you said. Landscape area, there's a little thing in here, it's just meant to be mulch. It's not really a landscape area. And all the rest of this will be loamed and seeded. There's no new proposed signage. That was a question. This, about the structure, it's gonna be, like a pre-engineered metal building, with pitched roof. The parking is just for, if you ask what the parking is for, it's, for the mechanics that might be working here when they bring something to service. It's really not to, there's no visitors or customers or any kind of thing like that. stormwater, she asked if the calculations were submitted, they were, and they were reviewed by Lou Karen. And the external lighting, like I said, we're just gonna do wall pack on the buildings. She asked about the impervious, wanted to make sure we were 15% or less. You can go higher than that with a conditional use permit. We're probably at 1%. This is one tiny little amount of impervious on this compared to the 250 acres. This isn't even close. So I didn't actually do the calculations because it was so far away, but if you could, you can go up to 60%, but we need to request the CUP, which we don't, we're not anywhere near the 15, so. Lou Karen's reviewing it, fire department already reviewed it, and our stamps and signatures are on there, so. I think that was it.
Can I ask you a question, just to back you up?
Sure.
I thought I heard you say that the rear of the building was gonna be gravel as well, but the plan doesn't reflect that, it shows.
Well, I'm sorry, it's not gravel, but it's a wide panel, okay? It's a wide panel of, it's loamed and seated, but it's not blocked in any way, what I should have said. This is a big wide panel, so there's access all the way around the building. It's not like there's a steep slope or a blockage of any kind. So there's access on all sides. The gravel ends right there, but this will be loamed and
Okay.
seated.
Now, is it possible, I know you've talked about lighting, but to add on the plan just an approximate location?
Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Yep,
They're just gonna be wall packs on the
Yep.
building.
yep.
They're gonna be-
So we'll add a couple of wall packs on that. Regarding Lou Karen's comments, rather than try to go through and answer stormwater and things like that that are best left dealt with him, I'll commit to you guys to satisfactorily address his comments rather than try to explain and get into the detail of that kind of stuff here tonight. It's probably not, without him here, not the appropriate venue. But we will, I commit to satisfactorily addressing his comments.
Were there any comments by the police chief? There weren't any in the packet online.
I don't have any. I
Yeah.
didn't get any.
We haven't received any either.
Any more questions, concerns from the board or staff?
What was Lou's review?
This is
Got hard
actually a
copies
copy.
here.
Yeah. Mhm. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When I first received it, I saw 4 sheets, double-sided. I was afraid Lou would put together an 8-page report, but now it's 4 copies.
Would it make sense to go through Lou's comments and see how they're addressed on the plan?
That'd be a good idea. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Sheet 1 of 7, existing conditions plan, there's a dug well, we just need to show it on the plan, and what it's gonna, and, that it's gonna be, closed off.
Where is that on the,
I don't have those colors.
I gave them all to him. I'll give them back.
Yeah,
Existing building trailer, so,
right,
what are you gonna do, just backfill it?
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Looking for,
So, and then sheet 2, we wanted note 1 to include that the proposed use of the building is equipment maintenance. No problem. Sheet 3, he was this one, I'm not gonna try to read the whole thing, I'm just gonna condense it. He was concerned that we provided plenty of pitch from here and here. He was concerned that this was a little flat, so he wanted us to raise the building about a half a foot and get a little bit more pitch from here to here. That's it. So we will do that. And then the 202 contour follows the edge of gravel, and you can see it's the same line as the edge of gravel. And so he wants that differentiated a little better, which we can do. And then the 201 contour, he wants shown contiguously in the detention basin. It's no problem. The drainage calculations, the first one's not really a comment because we're reducing the peak, which is what we need to do. Number 2, drainage calculations. Again, the other one's not an issue. It's just we didn't provide 50-year storm calculation in the basin, and he said all as that would do would be temporarily back up into the treatment areas, and it wouldn't create an issue. This next one, the post-development sub-catchment areas, he wanted us to make sure that anything from Morgan Road isn't making it into this, and it isn't, because actually this is higher than this all around it. And so we catch everything and treat it and dispose of it. He was just wanted us to make sure that the driving range and this did flow into us, which it doesn't. And then, of course, that comment goes further. If it does, we have to make sure that we have capacity and stuff like that. We don't have that issue, so that's pretty much it. It's really just, we were on the phone with him, my design engineer was on the phone with him on and off during the day, kind of answering questions as he went, so this is pretty much resolved. We knew what we had to do here. Should let the abutters have.
Anything else from the board? We ready to open it up for public comment? All right. I'd like to formally open to public comment from abutters and members of the public who would like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
Hey, Don Robidoux, 17 Brook Road. Could you show me on that map where the houses are on Brook Road?
If you go back to the
and where
cover
building
sheet,
is you're gonna build?
so Brook Road, the homes that he's referring to, is right along the north line of the entire sand and gravel property, and we are down off Morgan Road here, so we're not proposing anything anywhere near. This is a 1,000 scale map, so we're quite a distance from any of those homes.
Tony, do you want to show them on the paper map?
Yeah.
Is there a fence between, the fence goes around all the whole property?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you're not taking any trees down around Brook Road?
No, nothing anywhere near
Forest
that.
Lane? Because that golf course there is on the corner of 3A and, corner of 3A and Albuquerque.
Right.
But doesn't it abut Forest Lane also?
The driving range?
Yeah? No?
No.
If you're on the driving range, you look to your
The
left,
driving range actually is right here.
yeah?
This is Adams Way.
There's Forest Lane.
This is,
Oh, up
this
there.
is Brook, this is Forest Way over
Okay.
here. We're way down from there.
Scale-wise, almost 2,000 feet from Brook Road is where we're working.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Just because a lot of you people weren't there when we originally got our quarry approved, we fenced in the whole quarry, and everything outside the fence is basically a no-cut zone, especially along Brook Road and anything that came close to any housing. So there's a big buffer. We have buffers everywhere. It's like the quarry is about 120 acres in size that we actually are mining. But we have 650 acres. So we have buffers thousands of feet in most cases to anything that we do. I believe the closest house to the edge of the quarry, wherever it is 1,500 feet. And there's one house, and it gets farther and farther from there.
Thank you for the clarification. Are there any other members of the public who wish to question or comment? Yes, sir.
Mike Short, I'm with Claudia Boozer Blasco, she is on 13 Brook Road. What is a no-cut zone
Can't cut the trees.
in accordance with what?
An approved,
State law or?
no, an approved plan that when we originally got the facility approved, we came to the planning board and we had all these buffers, and we agreed that we wouldn't cut trees in those areas. So unless they fall over, they don't get cut. So that always stays a buffer between our operation and all the housing.
That's legally enforced, correct? Is that?
As it's
It's-
enforceable by you guys as part of the site plan
Yeah, so there's
approval.
they can't decide when they change their mind and take the trees down.
It's part of the approval, so
Yeah.
if we
Right.
said.
It is the way it's gonna be.
We decided tomorrow we were gonna go out there and cut the trees, you guys could say, you broke your agreement, we're
And revoke the
revoking your
plan.
permit.
Yep.
That's
So
not-
those are protected trees.
Yeah, it's protected, it's not.
Another question. What is the increased number of employees that would be working within the facility?
Zero, none.
You got the same number of employees there already?
Yes.
And the level of training and hazardous waste handling? Is there any
We don't deal with hazardous waste, so,
or no spillages?
excuse me?
Spillages?
Well,
You got big machines?
you have oil, we have oil that's not considered hazardous waste, so it's not even hazardous waste if it
What?
gets spilled on the ground. No, it's not what we use, it's not, we don't deal with hazardous waste. We can have oil that's spilled on the ground, and we have contaminated soil from motor oil or gasoline, no different than when there's an accident with a car or something, and motor oil gets on the ground, it's not hazardous. It's contaminated, but it's not hazardous.
I assume you have procedures to mitigate that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, there's, yeah. I
Even
think
if-
his question, I think, is there a plan in place if something does spill, which obviously as a
Oh,
business
we-
owner, you have plans in place.
Yeah, in our original approvals, we have to notify the fire department when we have over I might be wrong, but a 30-gallon spill. We have to notify them, and then the DES comes down and they check it, and we have to put it in a pile, and we have to haul it off to an approved site.
Is now the required level of training of the employees to handle that kind of thing?
Well,
Or, I don't know.
our employees know, I mean, I don't know if this needs a lot of training, that if you dump oil on the ground, you have to clean it up.
No, it's handling it. Yeah, I come from the military. The military has serious training involved in their maintenance facilities. And
contaminated.
I just didn't know if you guys had anything required like that.
No, we don't.
Any other questions, comments from the public? Hearing none, thank you for your input. Then allow the planning board or the applicant to address the comments. I think we've covered that. Close the public comment period. I'd like to formally close the public comment period. Thank you all for your input. And further questions from the planning board to the applicant? Comments from staff?
No additional?
The, excuse me, the comments from Chief Freitzel, talked about issues of fire protection at a point when you design the building. I guess my question really is, if he requires, some type of fire protection, how are you gonna, how are you proposing that that would be handled? And when I say fire protection, you mentioned that the hydrants down at the corner of, Albuquerque and,
Morgan.
Morgan.
If the
About
fire
1,000 feet.
chief says, whatever building we build, we have to have a sprinkler system, we will not build the building. That's simple.
Okay, what about, Alan, you can bring it up in his analysis, so.
We believe that we will be able to design a building with engineering stamps that says up to this size building with the method that we're gonna build the building, that we will not need a sprinkler system. And we believe that will be something under 10,000 square feet.
Can I mention, when I gave the plan to the fire chief, he had told me that he had a meeting with Mark Charbonneau a couple of weeks prior, and they did discuss the size of the building, and I can't remember what he had told me, but he said they probably would have to scale it back a little bit to avoid sprinkler system, but I'm surprised that he didn't address that in the letter, because that's what he said to me, that
Well, he didn't address it. They did talk about it. He's talking about 9,600 square feet. The fire chief that came back to us around 9,600 square feet. We already had 9,900 on the plan because it was, everybody thought if it was under 10,000. We believe with the material that we build the building with will determine what size we can build without a sprinkler system. So, once we know what that is, that's what it's gonna be.
Thank you. Kevin?
And to address the concern, I read the same thing from the fire chief this morning. And the use of the building is what we call an NF1, factory use one, it's what we use for. You're allowed by state law and by state fire code to go up to 12,000 square feet. Okay? Under the code as adopted, under a type 2D, like Rick had mentioned, the building construction material will determine the factor of whether suppression system will be needed or not needed. That's what the law says. As to whether the fire chief's gonna say you need one that's mandated beyond, I don't know how that's gonna work, because the statute is clear on that. If there's a difference between the two, owner then can make a decision of what he's going to use. The state law has allowed that. But Rick and I had a brief talk about this today on the sizing of the building and stuff. Based off his use, he can go up to 12,000 square feet without a suppression system, because of the nature of his use is not a high hazard use. Large equipment, major repairs, not a lot in there that is combustible. So that's another story, but Rick has said to me today that the type of construction of the building will determine what he's going to be able to build there. And the fire chief is aware of the rules on that, so not knowing the whole scope of it or discussing it with me or with anybody on the construction, it's still open. The state the building code is what you go by, and that is part of the code. So, superseded, you wouldn't do it,
And we will go by whatever the
whatever.
building codes. We're gonna hire an architect and he's gonna design the building and
Of course.
If he meets it, he's done, he's legal. That's all the state is finally doing. We finally got equalization, and that's what the goal is, okay?
And I just hate I hate sprinkler systems so bad, cause I've been up in the middle of the night so many times at the golf courses that I just hate those things so bad that I don't wanna get up for another building. That's really what it comes down to.
Fair?
There's pluses and cons. It depends on the occupancy. Like Rick's buildings don't have occupancy when you got a large people or fire load in. Steel doesn't burn very much, and even the oil in it can't even get going, okay? It's not a high fire.
I have one at Hidden Creek and I don't need it, and I'm not gonna build another building tonight.
Yeah, that was, I saw that, and I thought, ah. They are a nuisance. That's why this building doesn't have it nearby, as a matter of fact. It was part of, when they built this, they didn't want it, and then we built it so you didn't have to have it.
Thank you.
I have just the two modifications to the plan. I just wanted to just mention again the lights you said, and then I know we talked about the impervious cover, and you should be totally fine with that. But
Yeah,
can you
we'll
add?
list it.
Yeah, list that too.
So what do we want to do, gentlemen? Continue to a time and date certain, or continue forward? It's the will of the board this evening.
I think we've addressed every question we've had and connected with Lou on a couple issues.
I would entertain a motion if the board deems a
Make a-
motion makes sense.
I just.
Yeah.
Can we approve it without these concerns that Lou, raised on the site plans, or should we conditionally approve it?
It would
or-
have to be a conditional approval, yeah.
And you've agreed to all the terms on these. Lou,
Right,
so it's a matter of
absolutely.
putting them on the
We,
site
we
plan.
agree to do all these things. It's just, and we just have to, make the revisions and get them back to you as condition, and you see, review their, Lou will review it one more time, confirm that they're done, and then you guys can sign off on the plan. So these are very minor. There's nothing on any of these that would need further board discussion. You know, they're just, housekeeping items here.
Right.
I make a motion to approve the application of Litchfield Sand and Gravel, case number 1312 LIT SPM21, with the following conditions of approval. Plan copies of professional seals and signatures, original Mylar with professional seals and signatures, electronic submission per regulations, as built as required, bond estimate where applicable, all fees paid and escrow maintained as required, state permits for subdivision, subsurface septic, and alteration of terrain, and with the addressed issues of Luke Karen depicted on the comments of Luke Karen dated December 2nd, 2013, reflected on the updated application.
Sounds good, thank you. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At least sit on it for a week or two and then issue a decision. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Only an hour, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
doing such a good job, you should do a picture too.
Helps having that though.
It does help having this. Although, my battery charger isn't keeping up with the power drain.
Demand.
Yeah, the battery's actually losing life and I'm plugged in. Alright, back to our agenda. Next up is a conceptual discussion on the conservation open space development of map 9 lot 2.
Okay, again, for the record, Tony Basso with Keach Nordstrom representing Sousa Realty, the owners of this property. When I submitted this, it was Conus Corporation, but he's since closed on the land, so Sousa Realty. Really, this is just for informational purposes. I know that I believe I was told that the open space part of the regulations is relatively new to you guys compared to regular subdivision. We've been doing, actually, Sousa Realty and my firm have been doing them for years in other towns. But I wanted to just show it to you guys briefly, and we're going to be coming forward with this project, and we wanted to just kind of see if you had any concerns or comments at this level before we come back and finalize it. These are, again, Sousa Realty. This is a very similar ordinance to what Hudson has, where Sousa Realty's from, and we've been doing OSD developments in that town since '94, as opposed to conventional, because it really does make sense to do. You reduce infrastructure, which of course saves the developer, but it also saves on maintenance for the town. You reduce the sprawl of the project. And actually what ends up happening is the lots actually feel bigger than they are, because they're surrounded by open space, so you actually end up with a bigger feel. And the houses tend to get closer to the road, generally everything, and so it's not on a main road, it's on a cul-de-sac. It's the idea, it's its own little neighborhood. And Sousa Realty and Development has successfully marketed these for years and actually loves them. So when we saw this was an option for this piece, we decided to do it. The main objectives of it is to discourage sprawl, reduce road length, to keep buildings and structures on appropriate areas, reduce impacts to the site overall. And so what this parcel is, about a 75-acre tract of land. We're looking to do, in this open space development, about 12 lots. They would be over half acre. Most of them, they range from like 28,000 to, actually one of them is 70-something thousand.
Tony, just so I can be clear, can you kind of outline with your finger the parcels we're talking about? And I guess the other question,
Absolutely.
just a general question is.
Where is it?
Yeah.
I was going to get to that. I was just kind of covering the OSD part, but yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Because I'm trying to also figure out, is it the intention of your client to I'll call it redo what the planning board had approved prior?
Not
to make
redo.
it an open space?
No, that's going to remain as is. We're going
Okay.
to extend off of that.
Okay.
So where this is all of you were on the board when we approved Hamel Circle. Nessenkeg is right up here. Nessenkeg runs like this to Nacomo. This is Brickyard coming down. We have a little piece of frontage on Brickyard, and there's a conventional lot that is left here that we'll have. So it's a 70-acre tract behind these homes on Brickyard. There's a power line, if you guys recall from the site walk, and basically around there like that. So that's
70 acres is the whole.
The whole tract is
The whole
about
tract.
75 acres. So what we're gonna do is, the Hamel Circle cul-de-sac, as you recall, we extended it pretty far and we left the right-of-way so we could connect, because we knew this tract was back here and it was owned by the same owner at the time, Conus Corp. So what we're proposing is to essentially extend this in, and we'll leave the easement as a buffer between us and that, and then start to do an open space development just in one section of this here, contain that to that, just to this area. So there'll be 12 new lots there. The conventional one will cut off at probably at the same time.
This is an extension of Hamel?
Yes, it is. We're gonna leave, we'd like to leave the cul-de-sac if possible, rather than, because it kind of, that is its own little neighborhood. We'd
Tony,
like
could
to-
you step just back about a foot? Thank you.
Um,
On the other side of the power.
And there were no easement issues,
Right, but
or,
offhand.
well, I think before you took
The
the
drainage
end of the
is
cul-de-sac
right here.
off and made the
Right
easement
here.
there, correct?
Yeah, we
Last time, okay.
Yes. But,
I thought they were coming in
my
off
client
here.
controlled both properties.
That's what they
so
said.
I guess if you're a property owner buying property on that cul-de-sac, you obviously have the access way between the two sold
That's
properties.
correct. Yes. So we do, so basically we're looking at is, 31,000, 32, so they're not minimum, you're allowed to go to a half an acre. What we generally do, and this is a question that I kinda wanted to bring up to the board, we like to do, we've done in the past, I think you reduce the setback for the front yard, but you don't have reduction of setback on side yard in the ordinance, but it says that this is flexible, you guys can do what you want. What we've done in other towns is they reduce the setbacks to half of what the normal is, so that way we can keep it as compact as possible. This is far away from any, it's not like it's near the main road, it's meant to be its own little community. And so, what we'd like to do is have the side yard setbacks, and we like to, like I said, we keep everything generally close. A couple of examples of them, if you ever wanna see what he's done regarding these. Off of Greeley Street at the top of the hill in Hudson, is Pondview Estates, and Sousa Boulevard goes in there, and that's actually an open space development. Those are roughly 15,000 square foot lots. They're all about 100 to 110 feet wide, which is what we're proposing for the width here, is about 100. And you can see how that actually ends up laying out if you were to take a look at one of those done. I don't think you guys have had one approved yet in this town, so you really don't have an example. That's why I'm trying to show you the other towns. There's also, if you know where Whippoorwill Golf Course is in Hudson, you go up to the golf course, there's Hummingbird Lane on your left. That's an OSD development, similar to what we're proposing. They have the exact same requirements as you guys. They have 1 acre zoning. If you're on well and septic, you're allowed to half those lots. Half acre, and they allow you to go to 75 feet wide, which is too narrow. So we try to be at about 100. I think you guys allow the same, but you need to be about 100 realistically to place something decent. So those are some examples. There's even a few others if you guys wanted to see them, but they end up being like a little community all in their own here. And my question for you is, because you're allowed to change the setbacks for this, unlike normal zoning, would you consider letting us have only our side yard setbacks that don't touch a perimeter, which none of these do, only what's inside? Would that be a consideration? I think they're 20s now, we could go to 10.
Just a quick question for you, this is ignorant. Where is the open space then? Are you talking about this whole that's just the
This-
one portion
there's a-
of the 75 acres, but you could eventually develop
This is
The
all
rest-
we do, all the rest would be protected in,
all the rest of that 70,
everything else would be
Okay.
protected with a conservation easement. And what happens is, the way this works, every one of these owners gets a 1/12 interest in all the remaining property. So there's a deed that gets recorded and everyone gets a 1/12 interest. So, and there's a conservation easement put over it. So all the upland and all the wetland is all protected in a conservation easement, okay? So this would never be further developed, nothing else could be done with it.
for that entire 75 acre.
That's correct. This is the only spot and one conventional over there, that's all that would be dealt with.
So what's the total acreage of all of those 12 lots? Just roughly as of, as
I will
of,
take that little scale. That would, I'll be able to read that.
Good man.
So the block of development is, that's about 650 by 650. What do we got?
Tony, can you point to, where Nessenkeg, the stub on Nessenkeg is?
9 acres,
Over here.
approximately.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 9 acres.
yeah,
Nine. So the development
Well, he's
is
coming
contained
across,
in about 9
he's
acres.
leaving a buffer.
Right, you're gonna
Oh, so that,
be back
that
here.
drainage probably would be okay.
They'll be fine.
That's 12% of the total.
It's not affecting the drainage, you're gonna affect it.
So it does
Go over it,
significantly
yeah.
preserve, like if you were to, like, if I were to do this conventionally with 1 acre lots, I've got a significant swath here, I'd have to go down there with the road and we'd have to spread all out. So we're doing what the purpose is, to reduce, infrastructure. We end up saving about 600 feet of road to get the same number of lots. So 600 feet less maintenance, 600 foot less impervious.
That was my question. If you extended the road all the way 1 acre, you'd still get 12.
Yeah, oh yeah, we have to prove that. We have there's a conventional plan that, I mean, it doesn't have the whole track, so it's hard to see, but we proved that out. It's actually 700 more feet of road, okay? With the submittal, when we do this, you will get a conventional plan that shows every lot, how we get to the density. Because there's 2 ways to figure this density, okay? There's a calculation you have to do to prove that we have the right amount of land. But then you also have to show conventionally how that would lay out, okay? Because certainly just having the land isn't enough. The convention, certain shapes don't make sense, you can't get the amount of lots. So when we looked at this, we looked at it conventionally to see what we could get for lots before and that determines the density, okay? As well as the overall land calculations, subtracting wetlands and the whole thing, okay? There's 2 pieces to it. You guys will get all of that from us when we do it. So, basically, that's really all there is to it. We're actually just beginning design, so I anticipate we'll be submitting something, probably in 4 to 6 weeks, complete. And ready to start the process with you guys. And the only input I know you can't give binding input back, but your thoughts on how you would feel about reducing our side yard setbacks within that, I'm curious how you feel about
is the
that.
side back, the reduction you want for the side setbacks, so, which would allow a larger building to be placed there, is that?
A larger building box, yes.
A larger footprint for the,
Right,
to be developed.
yeah.
So what,
And not to increase density or anything like that. In fact, I mean, if anything, if we can get a bigger envelope in the setback, I may will actually be able to reduce the total disturbed area, because I can get that more condensed, which is the goal of OSD.
but my question is, what's the size of the typical building that you would put there versus without the setbacks, and what would be the increased size with the setbacks?
We'll match Hamel, maybe, because you're going to be going through Hamel to get to that development. So is it going to, Hamel's what, 2,500 square feet? 2,000?
So the typical, you got to put a few dimensions together. You've
10
got,
feet, 10 extra feet.
yeah, I know that, but what's the typical house size? So you've got like a 34, 36,
No.
36 long?
26, 36, 36.
All right, so
With the 22
36 plus the 22 garage,
22 garage,
so
yeah. 58.
58, and then 20 and 20 is 98. So we'd like to be able to do, these are right around 100, which is what we need to do that, but we'd actually like to do is actually even bring that in a little more, and have less impact. Not more lots, not more density, just be able to have a little more room detail on that.
Is the estimated house size 2,000 square feet, or you estimated more if the side comes in, goes out? I mean, if there's less of a side impact, will house size increase because of that? Or are you just looking for placement and easier access?
It's placement, access, it's a whole combination of things.
So you're not gonna you still couldn't put like a 4,000 square foot house on that,
No,
or a 3,000
no,
square foot
no,
house?
no,
Okay,
no.
so the core house size
Is
will
not,
mimic the neighborhood
that's
that it's
correct.
going through to get to.
Very similar to what we have now.
Yeah. I mean, they're even looking to be in the similar price range.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not, yeah, they're not looking to put bigger homes here or anything like that. It's really to keep it as compact as possible, keep it as close as possible to, you know, we keep it close to the road, they're relatively close together. So if you had 10-foot side yards, you'd have 20-foot minimum between the buildings essentially. And,
What you're basically talking is something almost like what our adult communities are.
that's correct. Well, actually, a little more, those are 15, so this will be 5 feet more, but, you know, in the ballpark. But, that is what we're looking to do, something, and that, I mean, as you know, Mr. Sousa did Annandale and closed that out. I think we're down to 1 unit.
Almost.
I mean, so there's a market for that. People, you know, it's not for everybody, but there's a lot of people who like that kind of thing, and he's had a lot of success with it. So we're trying to, your regulations allow a lot of flexibility, which is that you guys have to be able to grant or not grant. So that's kind of one of them. That's the only one I think we're really looking for any flexibility on is over the side yard. Only looking for input here, just to how you felt about it. And then, of course, answer any other questions you guys have about the idea.
From my perspective, I don't have too much of an issue whatsoever with the side yard question that you asked. The only comment that I would make is you've got a cul-de-sac going in there, which is fine. But you're planning on leaving the original cul-de-sac that's just outside of there.
We've
To
thought
me,
about that.
Yeah, I'd like to take it out, and the only reason I'm doing that is simply from a town perspective of plowing cul-de-sacs is not fun. And if we can remove the cul-de-sac, it makes it easier for people to plow and everything else.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it was just a thought. We've actually gone back and forth over the issue between us, even trying to decide do we keep it or not, and, you know.
The other thing, Tony, that when we got into these discussions on the original design, there was a concern that was expressed about some of the lots. And as I'm looking at your plan on the right-hand side of that street
Yeah,
with drainage, because the property there is so darn flat,
yes,
that I remember that there was an issue that we couldn't move the water into swales
that's right.
and
Yeah,
stuff like
very
that. So,
flat on-
so
on
how's
this
that gonna be
path over
affected by what your proposal
Oh,
would
we're
be?
better off on this side. This is flat, but there is actually a very deep channel. I mean, we only located, you know, the wetland we needed, but there's a deep channel in here. And what we'd like to do is do stormwater management and get into that deep channel. What we didn't have when we were doing this project was the rest of this land. Mr. Sousa didn't have it under agreement. He hadn't even talked to him about it at that point. So this piece, it's incredibly flat, and as you know, the abutters were concerned that any water would come their way because it was so flat, so we actually designed it not to. But on this one, we've actually got a deep channel over there that we can get to, so that's what our intention is.
The other question I'd ask is on Brickyard. You've got that one lot there. Your intention is to put up a conventional home on
Just
that
a
lot?
single-family home, yes. No
From,
side
from,
yard
from a
reduction.
and I don't know the topography or the lay of the land, but would it make better sense for conceptual wise, to take that cul-de-sac that you're proposing up there and just move it this
Brickyard.
way and have it come off a Brickyard?
The reason why no is, we can do this without a wetland impact. We would have to cross a wetland over here to be able to
Okay.
do that. So, and the idea here, obviously, is conservation, so we're trying to avoid that. This is an upland access, and you can see there's a limit there. Basically, this land is high as those lots along there, and then it drops off down to a wetland. And then this land all in this middle is a series of uplands and wetlands all over the place.
Nothing you can do with it.
Scattered.
Not usable.
It could be, but not without an impact, and that's the whole idea of this, is let's just only use what we can use without an impact. I mean, we can get here and use the upland pockets, but I mean, we'd be impacting tons, and it doesn't make sense when we do everything we need in one corner.
Now, that 5 Brickyard, is that 1 acre lot gonna be removed, obviously, from the 75 acre continuous conservation?
That's
tract? So
correct.
that'd be a separate, that's.
That'll be a
come
separate
down there.
standalone lot. Yeah, we'll just have a lot line just like that. And then all of this will be, all of that land would be conserved. All the upland, all the wetland.
The street that you're proposing that would go down there, I forget the name of it, is it Hamel? What area?
Hamel Circle.
That would be standard town dimensions.
That's standard construction.
Okay.
Yep.
And what is the buffer between the current Hamel Circle and the new Hamel Circle?
We're gonna, well, the easement width is about, I think it's 190 feet, so we're
Just
not
open
gonna,
space or just?
that's gonna be, yeah, that's gonna be open. And so we're starting it after that, so we don't have any lot lines under it or anything.
How's it gonna affect your drainage at the end of Hamel?
We're gonna have to, we're gonna look at that, because we do have a stormwater pond there, you're right. You know, honestly, at this point, I have to figure that out. Haven't gotten there. This is I have walked the site with Mr. Suso. We've looked at where we can put stuff, where houses can go, where drainage can go. But we looked at physically connecting there. But, you know, the analysis, we haven't done that yet. Obviously, that's all gonna be part of the submittal. And that may take reworking that little stormwater area. Maybe getting it into this system and getting it out, which would be better anyway for the.
Yeah, there was also an issue, I think, on that street of slope for the drainage and stuff was an issue. Because if you had to put the appropriate slope in, you'd have to build the street up pretty tall
Right.
to get it to work because of the distance of the rise and run.
Yeah.
Is the current Hamel Circle 8 homes or 6?
Six.
homes.
Yeah.
And is there any, with the lot lines you have with the cul-de-sac, if the cul-de-sac is now, if it's removed to one continuous road down to one cul-de-sac, is there an issue with lot lines, plot lines for owners of that land?
No, we'll have to extend them to the,
Okay.
into the right, but that's it. What'll actually happen there is, the cul-de-sac would be, we have a couple of choices. We can eliminate the pavement and leave the right-of-way as is, because you're not gonna have to maintain that, and then we don't have to, the selectmen don't have to undedicate this portion of road, okay? If that's what you want, that they get rid of the right-of-way, we undedicate this portion of road, then we'd have to, when that happened, these would automatically extend to the center, to the new right-of-way. But in my opinion, eliminate the pavement, because you don't wanna maintain it, but why not? Leave the rest alone. You can't hurt to have extra right-of-way. But, and leave the status quo there. But that'll be up to you guys as we go through the process.
And it's still your road, it's not,
It has not been taken over yet,
No.
no. No, but when you dedicate a plan and it's been put on record, it's dedicated on the face of the plat.
dedicated right away, yeah.
And so at that point, even though it hasn't been accepted, that's only for maintenance. It's been dedicated. So essentially, the selectmen now.
I'll show it to you. So that would be included in this map, with multifamily would be revised, or that would be a hashed pattern to match multifamily. So I think that's kind of what you're talking about a little bit. This map would be revised.
Oh, okay, so
to
that would be the
include-
section, yeah.
Include those parcels. Does that make sense? Okay.
I'm reading the contract for the CPG, and I don't see multifamily.
Well, I've got the.
Investors. So this is another one of those items where, again, stuff is being expenditure to a line that is very large, that doesn't allow us to see the historical value of the data.
And I would suspect it is in Campbell High School athletic officials.
It could be.
I mean, I don't know where else you'd put
It
it.
was the only place, if they're not putting it here, that's the only other place they could put
Yeah,
it. You're
I mean,
correct.
for the books to balance, you gotta have it showing
Gotta
up. So
have
it's in there, gotta be somewhere in there
The
somewhere.
auditors would want to see
Yeah.
it, so I imagine they,
And it flows through the next line, which is transportation. It's the same question there.
What we've traditionally, I think Coach Patterson's right, what we've traditionally done in the high school budget, it goes in and then we withdraw. So if you notice on page 23 and 24, there's some superintendent's reductions there. Both of them are, one of them is a reduction for self-funded and one is a bottom line reduction.
Well,
So that's to move it out of that to the self-funded.
wait, I'm sorry, what line are you on?
24.
Page.
What page?
Page 23.
Page 23, middle of the page, $2,500 for hockey.
This is under athletic, this is under supplies you're talking about?
Talking about on
Supplies, yeah.
Oh.
And then lacrosse down at the bottom at 1,000. And on the next page.
Yeah, because that belongs in
wrestling,
self-funded.
700.
That I understand.
Yeah, so there's the $4,200.
We did the same thing on officials.
But it's not, that's not the question. The question is, when we write a check that pays for those game officials.
Sure.
Where is that line item? Where are those dollars being expenditure to? That's the question.
So on page
Right.
25, 391, game officials, self-funded?
Right.
Yeah, the game officials are listed,
But where are you putting, when you write the check, what line item are you expendituring those dollars against?
that comes out of the student activities that we put that money in, and then at the end of the year,
Well, it's not a student activity expense. It's a cost for self-funded program.
There is not an easy answer to this, because what happens is, and the person that handles all this is
Right
right
there.
behind me.
John, it
A
comes
self-funded
out of
program,
391, and
yeah.
then they reimburse us at the end of their season for all of that money that we took out of 391 for their officials. Excuse me. In other words, we pay
Oh,
the
if
officials,
you're
and they
paying
reimburse us on
391,
the
if
back
you're
end.
paying it out of 391, then there
Yes.
should be historical data in our accounting system that shows all those expenditures that should say, at 2013 actual expenditures, whatever they were.
That's one way of handling it.
That's the correct way of handling it.
That's one way, I know, I mean, we can.
We handle all our other expenses that way. Why do we handle self-funded differently?
Listen, I'm with you. However, that's not the way a lot of districts will handle it. They'll take the offset from the revenue coming in for the student activity fund and offset directly to the expense.
So.
That's not a good, if Bill were to ask me for an audit report on that, he would have issues with that.
Correct.
Because but that's not how school districts do that.
If the school board were to undertake the task and argument of something not being self-funded and wanting to move it to the budget.
Right.
By not doing it correctly, you handicap the school budget to be able to articulate that argument.
No, you
because
still
we
have the
cannot-
history.
We cannot show that history.
No, you still
in
have
our
the history,
budgets.
because the audit trail would show a credit to the expense.
yeah.
You'd still have that history, it wouldn't be as clean. I prefer, as an accounting person, to show the revenue offsetting against the expense and not commingle the two. But from the accounting principle, you can offset in the same current year directly to the expense.
And again, this is nothing
And
new.
that's what they're doing.
It's the way it's been done since the beginning of Campbell. This is the,
Well, it has, and it's one of the things that the board has asked that be looked at
okay.
through all the processes of administration, so
All right.
that when we're looking at budgets with the budget committee, and we know the questions that they're asking and they're looking for, that we can give them as factual and as accurate as information from the reports that shows the trends of the expenditures of the budget that we're proposing. It makes everybody's process that much easier.
Okay.
Question about ice hockey.
Yep.
You show 6 transportations for ice hockey. As far as I know, is that a cost sharing with Pembroke? And 'cause there's no bus that leaves Campbell for ice hockey.
That is correct.
So what does that cost?
This is what we've requested, and we haven't ever gotten it. But when I put in my budget, I always request some help for ice hockey, some help for wrestling, and then it invariably, gets cut because it's self-funded, or gets moved to self-funded, or in the case of ice hockey, yes, it's still self-funded, but you got to pay to play.
Does it make any difference what number you have here then, as far as a self-funded number? I mean, it could be $20, I mean.
Right.
Because you're not even booking it, what you're saying.
Right.
And the only reason is that it doesn't affect the tax rate is because when you do the calculation, you completely offset what's in the budget with what you anticipate in the way of revenue? That would,
Should be.
that's what happened?
Just gets back to.
That's why it gets backed out of the operating. It doesn't,
And then what happens if you had funded, let's say, $20,000 for self-funded and you only took in $10,000? What happened to the other
It doesn't happen.
$10,000, which has been appropriated? Does that go in the fund balance?
The agreements typically call for 50% of the contract up front. So half of it is there with a plan to show it, so we don't just say, spend your $20,000 and give us those. There's a plan, we have to receive, what is it, 50%?
it doesn't go into the general.
Before we commit to a schedule.
I think you missed my
To
point.
answer your question, it does not go back to the general fund.
Where's it go?
It's a
Because you've
student activity,
appropriated
because
it.
it's technically classified as a student activity fund,
Okay,
and it's up to the students if they disband. For instance, if lacrosse after 3 years
you
decides.
misunderstand my question.
Okay, let me finish, maybe I'm getting to it, though.
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you ask, but
Okay.
it doesn't go to the general fund.
We appropriate $20,000. Right here. Okay.
But it gets backed out of the general fund.
When does it get backed out? When you set the tax rate, how do you back it out?
I can't answer that because I haven't been involved with the cycle. I'd
You
have to
show the
look at it.
revenue, the incoming revenue, I assume.
No.
You don't. What we're appropriating here is $20,000. That doesn't get backed out when we set the tax rate. That's in the appropriation we ask for. Right? The answer is yes. I mean, that's what we're
Okay.
appropriating. Okay?
But I guess my point is, nothing's changed. Why wasn't this addressed 10 years ago? Because it's been that way forever, right? I'm asking.
Self-funded programs are very recent.
Yeah. Am I on
I
track,
understand,
Cindy?
yeah,
You know,
I
Wesley was the first self-funded sports
Yeah.
program that we had.
Okay, so that's,
But even though it's cut from our bottom line, it's still appropriated to the taxpayer?
When the warrant Article 1 gets put to the voters, it includes the self-funded money we're talking about here.
Okay.
And they approve that number. And that's the number that the DRA uses as far as the appropriation to then back off what the tax is going to be.
right.
And you estimate revenues, and I had already assumed, I could be wrong, that you just estimated that the...
They could be in there,
you're
Bill.
offsetting
I don't have to
revenue.
take a look to be, I don't want to answer you.
But my question was...
Without being definitive on that issue.
Because I know we're appropriating this money, if you don't actually spend it, doesn't that difference wind up in the fund balance?
Because I believe the answer to that is, and I'll be more definitive when I look at it, is that the only amount that is spent is directly dollar for dollar offset by revenue. So in other words, if the money doesn't come in,
Right.
because of by definition, it's being self-funded,
won't
it
be
doesn't
spent.
continue, it won't be spent.
And then it's left over at the end of the year as fund balance, correct? I mean, unappropriated funds.
You're only looking at part of the equation, however, if the appropriation is underspent, and the income doesn't come in, it doesn't impact the bottom line, because it's not spent.
I know that, but when you close the budget out for the end of the year, and we've talked about underspending the budget, okay, you will have appropriated money in this account that you're not going to spend, and that will be part of the underspend of the budget.
But it's a calculation of revenue as well. You're just looking at the,
No, I'm looking at what you're going to wind up with money left over at the end of the year.
right, and it's a calculation of what comes in
This
for
year,
revenue.
That money that was left over, a significant percentage of it was from self-funded.
Okay, and so, here I go. Then, why don't we just put a minimum amount in here then? If it doesn't make any difference, that we offset it with revenue. Because
Why don't we
it
put
makes no
real
sense to, it
numbers?
makes no sense to me to appropriate money that you're not gonna spend.
Well, I think the question the question we have, and I'm just, is that if we don't appropriate the money for the self-funded programs, then I don't believe when the revenue comes in that they can go and just
Right.
I wouldn't
spend
say,
it without it being, if it's supposed to go to, let's just say, transportation, if we don't budget that transportation expense, they can't get the revenue and then spend it on the expenses we haven't requested it in our budget. So I do.
yeah, I wasn't
do
suggesting
understand-
don't fund it, I was suggesting not
I
as
do
much.
understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, so that would be a good question. I'll make sure that the school board ask the same question, try to get an answer for you at some future meeting.
Okay, well, okay.
So the question we're looking for an answer to is, when it's appropriated but not spent, what happens to that money and what impact does it have on the budget and taxes? And also looking at a process so that we have more accurate numbers in the budget, that we can see previous year's actuals.
Michelle, can you add that as action items to the school board?
All right.
Now, back on transportation.
Transportation?
Transportation.
I'm listening to you, Bill.
Yeah. What is the right number for self-funded transportation? It's not 20,000. Because you got varsity soccer, lacrosse, varsity soccer, football, basketball.
What is for,
All listed
for
there.
self-funding transportation?
Transportation for self-funded.
Where's the transportation bill?
We'll have a meeting of the minds.
Page 25.
519. If you look at everything that's listed there, it
519.
includes self-funded and it
Yes.
includes varsity sports.
Yeah, I highlighted
Which don't
that.
belong in there.
Yeah.
It's the same problem they had on the Campbell High School athletic one. I came up with 15,530, but I don't know if that's the right number.
I will tell you that the reason it's there is because last year or the year before, the school board zero funded these events in the budget. And if they elected, being the specific team elected to want to participate in that event, and in some cases these are preseason games,
Oh, yeah.
they had to raise the funds
Yep.
to pay for them. So that's why they're under the self-funded part, because the school board did not fund a preseason soccer game or a preseason football game.
Yeah.
Now, that was something we did, that may have been something we did when the large cut of the budget occurred, and I think we may have extended it for one more year, but I don't believe the school board has had any discussion about that process being that way for the last couple of years. But that would, my recollection would be, that's what the reflection of those athletic events are, and that's why they're in self-funded.
Yes.
So
Yep.
they must be continuing that if that's where they've left that.
See, I would suggest, based upon the discussion we've already had about the self-funded and the budget and the...
Well, I would
fund-
try to
that-
begin to
That I'd
separate.
take that out personally, you know. I don't think it belongs, if it's self-funded, it ought to be defined and not varsity sports.
I think you need to bring some definition to what is a self-funded account. Because we hear, sometimes we call it a student activity fund, and then sometimes we're calling it something other. And I think probably real soon, like the next meeting, if we can pull it together by Thursday, but certainly by next week, we need to take a look at all of this, because it sounds more to me like it's a student activity fund. And the school board gives the approval for the activity, but doesn't fund the activity. The activity is funded by the students who participate, parents, PTOs, so on and so forth. That money goes into a student activity fund.
Yeah, and that's, if the basketball team wants to do a Christmas tournament, it's not in the budget. They have to fundraise the cost of the bus and the entry fees to go to this tournament. It becomes self-funding.
And it's
then
through
that's why it
a
gets stuck in
student
here.
activity fund.
That's the case with all the funds for the sports that we have currently at the high school, but for wrestling or any of those those are specifically paid for and run by Litchfield
Right.
Friends of Wrestling. We don't have the student activities fund here for that.
Right.
They keep their money themselves, just so
But-
you know,
yeah.
like lacrosse.
To address your point, John, under this particular account, we're talking about girls lacrosse, girls varsity soccer, preseason, I guess, $556. And if I go to the Campbell High School budget, I have girls varsity soccer, preseason, $575. It's in both places.
Well, then it shouldn't be in both places.
And that's the point I'm trying to make.
They should be removing it from the self-funded aspect or the other aspect.
These are
Yeah.
preseason
Shouldn't
Right
have
right
any
now, it's
question.
in both.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, I know that the football, I don't know if soccer did, but I know that the football team had 2 preseason games. So they may have had one that got paid through the regular process, and they may have had one that they self-funded for. So I don't, you'd have to talk to John on, because that's a detail the school board doesn't get involved with, but I would say that, let's just say we'll have an answer back for you before you vote on it.
You've had my say.
All right, so that's an action item for the school board to sort out for us. Why is it in two places? Or is it in two places? Moving on to page 26. Page 27. Page 28. Page 29. Page 30. Page 31.
Yeah, just a question, why the, under the utilities disposal, why that basically double? Line 421.
421,
Yeah.
shredding services.
The answer the school board was that there's going to be a very large purging of some documents, I believe is what you guys told us
Okay.
at the meeting. So they I don't believe it will stay that way, but I believe there's some, we now are at a point where we can begin to purge
Get rid of a
records
lot
and
of
stuff.
records from guidance and from, we have every piece of paper that ever,
I know.
1999, it's all everywhere.
Good data, though.
It's good data. We hate to throw it away, but.
Cindy and I have all that stuff, too.
Yes, we do. All right, moving on to 32. Page 33. Page 34.
Yeah, just my comment on the water, there's another one you can look at there.
Oh, yeah, you have an estimate of 2%. That's not gonna fly if it's 7 or 14%.
Guess it's a
Seven's
little
just a
low.
start.
Right.
Is that gonna be to everybody, even though?
Yeah, school's not on special water,
Yeah.
even though you're right over the
May wanna
aquifer.
just
Or
take-
was, I finally got rid of having to pay for that fire hydrant.
Well-
And now I'm gonna get hit with a bigger cost again.
And our
Fire-
taxes going up because of the fire hydrants
Yeah,
too.
what did the fire hydrants go up by this year?
65,000, I think it was?
No,
Something like that, yeah. I have to go look.
thank you, because I would have fund it all myself.
All right, page 35.
All right, wait a minute, page 30, okay, yep. 35. I just said, no, yes, no, yeah, had a question. What's this issue on lighting in the auditorium?
Well, what happened was when the auditorium was originally built, I think they thought it would be a plan out, and so every year we would add 10 lights or 10 lights and 10 lights, and then what happened was the lights just kept getting cut from the budget. So we have like 51 lights, and we get to 61
It's on
lights.
the stage lighting, or what
This
is
is
it?
lights throughout the stage lighting, and so every year we put it in. This year, the school board kept it in, which we were grateful for. And, we think that if we keep adding the lights, by 2021, we will have it 100% if the budget committee and the school board keep allowing us to do a step-by-step process.
Basically, the auditorium is lit at 50%.
Yeah, but you're talking about the stage lighting, I
Stage and
assume.
and the auditorium lighting.
Yes,
Where the seats are.
right. So it could be really,
Fine
it could
for
be
me.
really bright in there. So we are really thrilled that the lights are still, they managed to stay on.
All right, page,
Just a quick correction.
Yep.
This year's impact for the hydrants is $35,000. The full cost in the following year will be about $60,000. If it goes to where they say it's gonna go.
That's on the 14th, the upper end, which,
Wow.
Yep, just wanna make sure I had the right numbers out there.
yeah. Everybody's on the high side, John.
I'm always on the high side.
all right, page 36.
Okay, here's your porta potties. Okay, this is different from what we just talked about, having porta potties for the one game. What is this proposing?
I don't know, I know.
This is 442, 2 porta potties in season, $100 each month, September through November,
That
April.
Matt takes care of it.
Those are
That's not through the
Matt's.
athletic budget, that's just on the grounds. right?
That's the grounds.
Anybody
Matt.
using the field that can use a porta, we keep a porta potty on site.
They're going to here at the high school?
Mhm.
Okay, this is new, right?
I don't believe so.
No,
This
yeah, I was
was in
gonna say,
last year.
this is grounds and maintenance budget.
I've never seen porta potties here. Where are they?
Well, you might be right, because it says,
I think they removed them already.
yeah.
The ones we had in the fall have been removed, but,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but we did have.
Yeah,
them.
I've just,
They were there in the
I've never
fall.
seen
Out
porta
there.
potties here out in the fields.
Oh, they were out in the football, in the corner of the football field across from softball?
Really?
Mhm.
Hmm.
You won't find them tonight, Bill, so don't go looking. They're gone.
Not tonight.
Not tonight, they're
Don't
gone.
go looking.
The snowplow is starting up.
Okay, so when did we start doing that? Can anybody tell me?
I can't answer that, I'd have to go and ask
Matt,
Matt
you need
how
to
long
know.
they've been. They were.
Well, I would say, Bill, they may have been doing them for a very long time, but they haven't tracked them in the right budget line.
I don't recall seeing them out there.
Yeah, I don't
I've never, honestly, I've never seen porta potties at the school, and trust me, I look for them.
I,
I can't tell you if I didn't look, so.
Close, reliable source tells me they were there last year, and I would strongly recommend that they be there next year, because obviously it keeps traffic out of the building, because we do have, obviously restrooms in the building, but if we can keep folks out of the
Yeah.
building on the fields, it's money well spent from the standpoint of
I tell you in the spring.
liability.
There's one over by the baseball field and the track. Is that where
Yep.
is that where they go? One at either side
Are
by
we-
the field?
We got bathrooms on the back side of the
Yeah.
gym that are outside.
For outside access, but
Yeah,
again,
yeah, two
we'd rather
bathrooms.
keep folks out on porta potties, utilizing porta potties.
Instead of using those two outside
Way
access.
down across from the baseball field, when we have football season, nobody will go down.
Right,
Right.
right.
That's when we have the porta
But do
potties.
those two bathrooms have access into the building as well?
No.
Okay, all right.
Nope.
I could see merit to having one on the far end of the track, between track and softball. And that's a long way to go to come back, to the restroom, in the spring. We did not do that last spring, but I could see merit in that.
Well, I think the students, even the visiting students, should be allowed to use the building. I would assume that these would be for spectators.
Not just spectators, if you, obviously, everybody knows, this building is a community building.
Yeah.
So it provides, if somebody's out here using a field, using the property, it gives them an opportunity to use a restroom without, again, coming into the building. That's not all being said, a lot of times the building's probably open. Again, this building probably is open, pretty close to 24/7.
Yeah, it's
So,
heavily used. Which is a good thing.
but again, I look at it from the liability standpoint, this building, all three of our districts, our biggest loss from a liability standpoint is slips and falls. So if we can have people utilizing this on the outside, it's $1,400 well spent.
Anything else on page 36? Page 37? Page 38?
Do I even want to get into this?
Page 39?
38.
38.
I'm trying to rationalize the voc transportation. We got about the same number of kids that are going. Is this, we have the problems with trying to balance, we can get buses or,
It's very difficult because, everybody's running voc programs or school programs at the same time. So, like, we have some kids that go for the first block, so they get taken. Then you have some kids that go at 9 o'clock, so they go to the next 90-minute block. So it's really transporting kids between South, North, Alvern, and
Bill,
Campbell.
What I tried to implement when I was in Nashua and oversaw the high schools and the CTE programs was to have the district student, the regional students scheduled as much as possible in first period and fourth period, so it minimizes the travel time during the day. But given that they have 4 blocks, and the kids in culinary, they may need to be their first period, and another kid may need to be second and third and fourth. And Nashua has 92% of their CTE students are Nashua students.
Yeah.
So they run their schedule,
For Nashua.
nobody's listening, their way.
Yeah.
And if it works for us, it works for us.
Yeah.
In Concord, 60% of the students, of the CTE students are out of district, so they're much more cognizant of how their schedule impacts others.
And we've done I think a remarkable job at trying to get our kids going all at the same time. It's just that some of the things that they, like HVAC is only offered at this time. So that makes it difficult.
Okay. Read something for me, because I had cataract surgery, and right now my near-term vision is a little screwed up. What did we actually spend in 2013? Is that 30,000?
30,000.
30,000?
Yep.
Okay, I couldn't tell whether it was 30 or 38. Okay,
Yep.
so we spent 30,000 last year for 21 students. And next year, we're talking possibly 25, but probably more like 22, but makes no difference. It's sort of independent. Is it independent of the number of students? The transportation costs? Independent of the number of students? Okay. So, it was 40,000, 2012, then it went down to 30, and now we're back up to 40,000, 42,000.
It's a bus.
It's a guess, huh?
Yeah, well, it's a bus. I mean,
Yeah,
it's...
yeah. And if you can do some sharing, it'll be less. If you can't, this is maximum.
Right.
Yes.
With transportation increases coming in,
Hopefully.
new rates coming
We
in.
would like to have our own little bus, trust me.
I
Just
mean,
hire a
ideally,
bus
we would have
driver.
a van
It would be- if
and
Primex
with a
would let us.
driver and could utilize in many different areas.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It's
You'd
something.
really save money on
Transportation's
that.
going to need something, and the board has heard this from both
Everyone.
Dr. Carker and myself, that we're going to need to look at transportation because it's rising costs.
Yeah. And you need a garage.
Right.
We're working on that.
Okay, I don't know what to say on this one, but that's fine.
All right, moving on to 39.
Yeah, now in 39, I think Superintendent Cochran had said you had a new number there, and I think I wrote down 60,734.
Yeah, 60,734,
Okay.
which is an increase of 3822.
Yeah, let me,
The total reduction from the self-funded is $17,680.
yeah, and I gotta tell you, I think that is still, even the 60,000 is overstated.
At 60,000, it's a 6.7% increase.
Yeah, well, you've been running,
Before we get the latest transportation news, I would have agreed with you.
I'm just working with these numbers right here, and then I know you'll come in with some adders on top of it, okay? But we haven't been running anywhere near that kind of cost. And I'm not sure where it's showing up, whether it's in pre-season or where it is, but, what we run 12, 13, 58, no, $44,000.
43, 44.
How much?
43 in 2012, 44 in 2013.
Yeah, and to get up to even 60 is, that's a stretch for me, because I don't think you had any additional sports added to this.
If you factor out the self-funded stuff, we still got,
I factored that out.
okay, there's still, we gotta have some increase because of the variable because of inflation that was to be named. We don't know if it's 3%, but there's going to be cost of per mile as well as bus per hour, as well as our conference alignment, who we're playing, in some cases, further away.
Did the new football alignment help on that at all?
We went to 3 on the football committee, sent it back to committee because they were thinking that we should have 4. But I think we're gonna stay at 3 football conferences.
Yeah, 3's all
at least
right.
one more year.
Okay.
It'll be 3.
But did that save on your transportation costs?
No, really, not
A
necessarily.
little farther away.
Yeah, sometimes you go further away.
That's, okay.
So, that could very easily be part, and they're still, they can't even agree to disagree. I got a meeting tomorrow about that, so.
Yeah, it was pretty heated up there at the
We
end.
only lost 3 games, there's teams that didn't win, but 2 games that made the playoffs, so figure it out.
I understand.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating for
I
people.
think also it's not so much the transportation on football, but soccer and they're the sports that play much more games, and they're the ones that are having to drive, Fall Mountain and things like that. I don't think the football team went there, but I know the soccer teams have made those trips and stuff like that.
No, the only thing is, when you do look at what we've been budgeting on this account, year after year after year, and what we spend on this account year after year after year, we never spend what we budgeted. Right.
And I think I heard that the freshman basketball is being reduced.
Right. We're not offering that this year.
That's listed.
Is that one of the numbers you removed, Brian? Is that one of the numbers you removed in your reduction in freshman basketball?
Yes, should be. I think I backed it out everywhere.
Yeah, well, you had also made an adjustment on the postseason, anticipating that they wouldn't make all the postseason, which is a reasonable assumption.
Page 40?
Just 1, 2 seconds. Now, are you gonna come in with a new page on this, or what are you gonna do with it, on this particular?
We'll give you a new page. We'll make those adjustments.
Okay. Because we could make it and get credit for making the cut, but
You can come on.
just kidding.
Well, come on out tomorrow when you're checking out the parking lot for those porta potties.
It
Come on
probably
in, we
won't
can
be
make them
just,
together.
probably, they'll go in and fix a few things, and when they print it out, it'll be, throw all the pages off, so you probably get a whole new section. Because it will throw the pages off.
Is that, I know it, is that in the budget?
Won't be in color, though.
It's in Michelle's budget.
Oh, God.
All set with 39?
Okay, 39, yeah, okay.
40?
And 40 is a continuation of part of it anyways.
Yep.
Okay.
41? That's the end of CHS.
The easy piece. No.
Yeah.
No, that's not true, actually.
Then, moving on to the salary and benefits, page 1.
Yeah, now, we had talked about previously about a contracted tutor. Now, how does this next line on tutor salaries work into that, or does it? I mean, we're looking at tutor salaries of $31,000, which is nowhere near, theoretically, we've ever spent on this. That's just a new line.
Because in prior years, it was covered by Title I federal funds.
Okay.
And those funds have been reallocated and will be spent covering solely at LMS and GMS.
Now, is this a different tutoring than what we talked about earlier tonight?
Yes, this is regular in-program tutoring for students in math and, I believe some reading as well.
Who need remedial help.
Is it using your regular teachers? Is it what it is, or what is it?
Actually, Mary, I think is straight math.
Yes, so they're hired tutors that will pull kids out of their study halls and spend time filling gaps.
Now, how was that number of $31,000 determined?
How's that different?
How did you arrive at a number of $31,000 for this line?
That's a projected this year, given her caseload and working hours.
Not on federal funds this year, right?
It's not, no.
So you can tell me what the year-to-date is on this line item?
Not that easily on this one, Bill, but I can. You're gonna need to give me a little bit of time on this one.
How hard is it?
How hard is
Is it
it?
difficult?
No.
Okay.
The time is on the system, not me. I can get it for you.
Now, the change on this had to do with the classification of Campbell High School and the disagreement that the school board had with the Board of Education in New Hampshire. It's why this position is being funded differently and no longer being funded through grant programs of the federal government.
Okay. But we always have had this.
We've always had the
this
position.
that-
We know, and this position fell under that, the classification of high school in need of improvement. We disagreed strongly with how they got to where they got to, and this is one of the positions that the school board made changes on to make that process end in 1 year. And there were other funds that they requested that we take, $30,000 or $35,000, that the school board rejected taking.
Gotcha.
And also told them that, again, we did not agree with the money nor their process, but if they wanted to give it to us and take us off the program, we'd be glad to reconsider. But
Yeah.
we agreed to disagree strongly.
So this wasn't a case of no longer being able to use federal funds for this. This was a decision that you made, which made sense.
We're not anticipating a change. The total of Title I-A federal funds that the district receives is only about $75,000.
Frank, don't worry about the year-to-date.
No, I got it here for you. Don't tell me you don't want it now after it took me 5 minutes.
The one you really don't want now.
Get it, whether you want it, how's that? We've expended year-to-date $2,323, and we have encumbered $93.29 for a total of $11,652. But I will tell you, I believe that may only be half a year because we were pending what was going to go on with Title I funds. We do not have a budget line for this because it was fully funded through Title I funding. So I believe those numbers only represent half a year right now, and some of it may have already been paid for by through the grant, and we just have to back it out. So there's a little bit of accounting stuff that needs to go on there.
Okay. Are you're obviously comfortable with what you requested. Would you be comfortable with something less than, based on what you just told me? And I'm not talking big less, but, I mean, if what I just heard you say, you're not up to $31,000.
I don't know.
I'm just,
I believe that,
throw it out.
I believe that figure came from Dr. Hino. We can check.
Yeah.
We'll try to have an answer.
Yeah.
By when you go to vote on this, we'll try to have an answer for that line item of what we expect that number to be. Or maybe she can actually go back historically and say this is what it's been being funded through this program the last few years. We'll try to provide that information.
Anything else on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5? Page 6? Page 7?
And just on page 7, and it's really for Dan's benefit, co-curricular, you basically budgeted everything as we did at LMS and GMS, and then in the district-wide account, they've gone into co-curricular and made a reduction of $37,000. So if you look at the actuals, what they spent versus what's been budgeted, it looks like it's out of whack, but that's compensated for when we do the district budget.
So that's a lump sum that's in the district-wide budget? Okay, thank you, because I missed that when I
Yeah.
saw the last meeting.
We didn't do district.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, all right.
that'll be the interesting one.
All right. Anything else on page 7? Page 8? Page 9? Page 10? Page 11? Page 12? Page 13? 14? 15? And 16 brings us to the end. It looks like he's thinking.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Look at Laurie, I'm done. She's happy.
All right, anything else that we need to cover on Campbell High School budget? All righty then.
So thank you. I know this is a lot of hard work for everyone, so we really do appreciate it.
Thank you for
We'll
your
see you
work.
soon.
All right, next agenda item is the Litchfield School District Planning and Building Advisory Committee update. I'm not aware that,
I can give you an update. The decision has been, if that's okay. Decision has been made to focus on GMS, and we've gotten very good cooperation from the town in terms of access to records. And I was making good progress in putting the information together for the group. For some reason, budget negotiations have happened for the last 5 weeks, and I've been basically what spare time I can to try and put that package together. So at this point in time, we have a partial summary. We still have to do the electrical summary, the exterior summary. The roofing summary is done. The grounds and the swale, I think we have a good handle on, and HVAC. So we're doing this basically in my spare time.
has another meeting been set?
I hope they have one before Christmas.
Could I give you
Because all of Bill's questions have been pointed in that direction. We've got a good chance at that.
I'll give you a side note. I ran into the fellow who used to be principal down at GMS when my son was there, so that was 30-some-odd years ago. And I told him how you were gonna get the swales cleaned out. He said, "I told him to clean the swales out 3 years ago!"
It's,
It's been a battle.
I'll just
get the pen.
add some commentary there. Being very steeped in the history and background of that, the problem at GMS is that the groundwater is within a few feet of the slab, and that swales offlow surface water, and that clearing the swales is a feel-good thing to do, but it's not going to solve the problem of the groundwater being within a few feet of the slab.
I agree that there is a surface water problem, but if you have additional surface water, if you can drain some surface water away, you're going to be better off.
If surface water was a problem, that would be true.
Well, the surface water becomes groundwater.
Surface water will percolate down through and become, and add to the water table. But I think you're going to find, all the information I've ever seen, and in the information about that site, is that draining surface water away is not going to do anything to that water table. So just in listening to the discussion the other night, I think $10,000 is a feel-good thing to do, that everybody seems to think, oh, we should do that, because we always used to do it, and that water issue has been around, used to do it, and in my opinion, the $10,000 is wasted. I think it'd be better off towards a humidification system.
The swale that we're looking at is within 20 feet of the building, and it's several feet below the building level. I can't see why water wouldn't run downhill.
It would run downhill, and the important thing to do, I think, with the swale is there are drains on the roof, and the drains do go. I would want to make sure that those drains are working effectively.
Absolutely.
But in terms of the swale, and I haven't seen your proposal, so I can't tell you, you know, what the engineering of it is, but I just know from history's sake that in draining off a little bit of surface water is not going to impact your groundwater, because the groundwater is actually flowing towards the river. EPA actually acts as a barrier, and that's why it's become such an issue there.
The part of the swale that we're looking at is the part that runs on the south side of the building, down directly to the road and into the drainage there.
You can tell it's been a controversial issue for a long time.
It certainly has. Certainly has.
Can I ask, have ground samples ever been done? Is it sitting on clay? I'm assuming it's sitting on clay.
They've done borings, they've done test wells. There's a whole bunch of data about that.
I think everyone would agree with the chair that it's the site and the elevation that is the primary problem. And the only disagreement really is whether or not this relatively small amount of money will make a difference.
It's a step in.
From May through about the end of October. October's a pretty good month. There is enough water coming into the building, both through a leaky exterior and up from the concrete, that on a bad day they can take almost 100 gallons of water out of the air with 24 portable dehumidifiers. If they don't do that, then we have slippage problems, because there's so much moisture in the air. But again, the point that I mentioned at the last board meeting when we brought it up was, where are we dumping that water, and are we just pouring it outside so it's going to run back inside the building or not? Where's our drainage off the roof? Is it actually getting far enough away from the building that we're not just paying the electricity to cycle this out? The rough cost to make the building tight in terms of windows is about $100,000 based on the current costs that we're doing 5 of them. So it is, and if you start talking about asbestos and other things, the building just gets architecturally more and engineering-wise more and more interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen all those things, right, Cindy?
From you see guys, it's like Groundhog Day for you two.
Yeah, me and Bill have seen all the data you could possibly imagine.
And always on opposite sides, too.
Yep.
But we're not going to ask you for a new school, if that makes you feel good.
I don't care.
You heard it here. No. All right. So that's the Planning and Building Advisory Committee. I'm back on the mailing list so that I'll know when a meeting is coming? Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
See what happens when you miss a meeting, get the
Well,
list.
see, I'm a non-voting member, so I can't really be given any major tasks.
Her main task is to make sure that we don't drill down into the minutia with this committee very much. We'll do the minutia, and the committee is the bigger picture piece.
All right, anything else under school business?
I don't think there's anything else.
All right, moving on to town business, general update.
The board hasn't met since our last meeting. We don't meet again until the 9th. The part of that meeting is some budget adjustments so we can get the final with you guys. I did forward to the chair the police department union contract language that was sent off. I don't think I've seen Andrew send it off yet, but it'll get sent late in the day today. We will have a summary for you guys on Thursday, kind of all the highlights. Same summary we're looking to push out to the public so they can see what's going on there too. Other than that, you will know more on Monday.
All right.
That's it.
Any questions for the town? All right, member input, new business. I just have one comment again that I want to make after watching the last meeting, and this is about the accounts payable clerk. And the question is why it's going from part-time to full-time and should it be a warrant article? That actually was a full-time position for years and years and years originally. That became a part-time position. We lost somebody, brought somebody in who, again, the skills shifted, so somebody took more of the job. The new person became part-time. The discussion I heard was, again, apparently there's been a shift of people, and now those skills have been redistributed back to full-time people, or however that is. But that position, going to full-time, that is how it was originally brought into the school district, and that's how it was for many, many years.
But it isn't today.
No.
It's full-time.
Fine.
It has been. I mean, we made this decision a year ago.
It was part-time for a few years.
Last year it was part-time.
We made the decision in the fall of last year. In our existing budget, we took.
In this year's budget.
This year's budget.
Full-time this year.
Actually, it would have been in last year's budget. It happened last fall, so it happened in 2012. We had new people come in. We had people leave. New people come in, and there was not a match in skills. So we made the necessary adjustments and changes in job descriptions and income and salaries.
Yeah.
And basically, we just made this person do what they were supposed to be doing and this person do what they were supposed to be doing instead of trying to commingle the job.
No, it's worth discussion, and there's certainly latitude in there. But, my starting point always is, what was the budget number, and what is it now? And if the budget number when we looked at it was part-time, and now it's full-time, then it's the discussion with me. But doesn't say I wouldn't agree with it, but it's a discussion point. And so not knowing for sure, because I've forgotten where it even was, it's not worth discussing that now until it comes up anyway. But again, my starting point is, was it funded or not? If it wasn't funded, then it's a new position.
Well, the answer to the question is, the work and the position for the work that needed to be done is funded. It was funded across two different positions.
Yeah.
One person was asked to just concentrate on this point, and in making that changed their job description, also changed their salary. And with that change, this person then absorbed the responsibilities that were part of payroll that another person was doing.
Well, that's where it was, okay.
And so it switched that way. So then basically what you do is take the money from here, you put it here, in that process.
I'm less concerned about that one than some of the other ones that are in the budget.
So I just heard the discussion the other night. I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
That historically, that's where it was. So, anything else? Public input? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Dan?
What? I second.
Yes.
I just didn't hear what you
I
said.
haven't even looked at the technology one yet.
And we have to show that you get that litany of